Jason, and I'm here with Kip Boyle today, and we are here on the Your Cyber Path YouTube channel to teach you something about resumes tonight. So we're really going to be focusing on how you can tailor your resume to the job description to really get hiring managers to just fall in love with you, okay? That's what we're going to be covering tonight. Before we do that, I just want to do a quick shout out to some folks. I see people saying where they're from. I'm here in Puerto Rico. Kip's over in Seattle, Washington area right now. So where you're at, just go ahead and pop it in the comments. Let us know. I see we have, let's see, Valeria is from Oklahoma. Kip is in icy Seattle, unfortunately. I'm in the warm beautifulness of Puerto Rico, so I don't have that problem. Babatoloa is in Edmonton, Alberta. That's got to be pretty cold. Let's see, we got New Jersey with Deborah. I see, let's see, Los Angeles, Giuliano, Texas. Tamara popped up a comment on my other screen. Good evening. Bear in mind, ready for some fast-paced Dion talk.
Beer in hand.
Oh, beer in hand. Okay. Yeah, take a shot every time I say the word resume. I don't know. No, I will try to speak a little slower tonight. That was some feedback from last time. I just get really excited with this stuff, so I tend to start picking up speed, and I will try to prevent myself from doing that. I have Tamara on the other side of the room, so she'll just throw something at me and get me to slow down a little, so that's good. The good news is most of the teaching tonight is going to be done by Kip, and he does tend to speak slower than me, so that's always good too. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Doug from Oklahoma, great to see you. Ghana, Canada, Indiana, we got people all over the place tonight. This is awesome. So as I said, tonight what we are going to be talking about is how to tailor your resume for the job you want based on the job description of that particular job. What we're really going to be doing here is try to help you figure out how to quickly land a position so you can begin your career within the cybersecurity industry much quicker than you can otherwise. And a lot of that is based on resumes because resumes are the input into this whole hiring machine. As things happen in hiring, we talk about the 3 threes of hired. That's something that Kip and I came up with that we really like as we start thinking about the funnel that you go through as a candidate and what we're looking for on the other side of the table as a hiring manager as you're going through this funnel. At first, you've got the first big barrier, which is your resume. Then you have your interviews, and then you have your negotiations. So tonight, we're really going to be focusing up there on resumes because it is the entry into this funnel. When you apply for a position, you're putting your resume in, and what you may not know is that there's actually this system behind the scenes that you're actually getting put into known as ATS, or the Applicant Tracking System. Now, we've talked about this before on the podcast, and we've talked about it on this channel before, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more today as well, because we're going to show you how you can get by ATS, because ATS is really a search engine internal to that company, and it goes through all the resumes to find candidates that meet certain criteria, and we want you to be one of those candidates. So whether you've been struggling for years to break into the industry or you're just getting started, we're here to help you understand exactly where you're stumbling in terms of resumes and how to overcome some of these hurdles that have been holding you back from landing your dream role. Now remember, resumes are just 1/3 of the equation though. It's that first part that hopefully gets your resume in front of a human, a hiring manager, who can then look at it and decide if they're going to bring you in for an interview. If you're not getting a lot of interviews, but you're applying a lot, resumes are probably your issue. And we're going to help you work through that tonight. So in the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to teach you a bunch of stuff, right? We're going to be talking about how to get your resume through ATS, that Applicant Tracking System. We're also going to be talking about how you can become irresistible to a hiring manager when they read your resume. Because there's certain things that as a hiring manager throw me off and certain things that make me go, wow, this is the person for me. We're also going to teach you how you can focus on keywords and your current existing skills that are transferable into your resume and into that position. And we're going to help you figure out how to build your resume based on the position description that matches your dream job. So with all of that said, we're going to go and get a little bit tactical today, and we're going to really dive into how you can work and rework your resume for maximum impact to potential employers and hiring managers. Now, to make this go easier for you, and one of the feedbacks we've gotten from previous sessions we've done is that you guys have a lot of questions that you want to ask in the chat while we're talking. And normally when Kip and I are talking, we can't stop and answer your questions. But tonight what we did is Kip actually pre-recorded his training part, and we're going to play that for you here in a second. And while that's playing, Kip and I will both be in the comments answering questions as they come up. And then at the end of the session, we're going to come back, we're going to talk about some more stuff live, and then we're going to answer some of those questions from chat that we didn't get to in chat live as well. So you do want to stick around to the end. You'll get all that great information. But I did want to give you that preview that Kip is not talking live, but that means he's able to answer your questions in the chat, and so am I, as soon as we start playing the video, which is going to happen right now.
Hi, this is Kip Boyle. Today we're going to tailor your resume to a job description. So, why do we need to do this? Some people think that you can just write a generic resume and just, submit that for a job that you want. Well, that's not very effective for two reasons. First of all, your resume is likely going to be filtered through an applicant tracking system. And you can think of an ATS as a private Google search engine for an employer. All resumes go into that database, and when they want to hire somebody, they use keywords in order to find the right resumes. So you've got to tailor your resume so that you will get noticed, because you're in an ocean of resumes and you've got to stand out somehow. So that's one reason. Another reason is because let's say you are successful and your resume does get noticed, and let's say that it makes its way into the hands of a hiring manager. Well, they're not going to spend much time reading your resume. They've got 60, 100, 200 resumes to go through, who knows? And they're just not going to really spend a lot of time reading any one person's resume. This is not a personal matter, right? This is just a matter of trying to be efficient and effective, and that's so you've got to get noticed there too. So there's two big hurdles you've got to get over, and the best way we know to get over those hurdles, other than just going directly to the hiring manager, which is a completely different topic, but is also something you should consider doing. But if you've just got to go through the HR department, then this is what you need to do. You got to get over that applicant tracking system hurdle, and you got to get over the hurdle of getting the hiring manager to notice you when they read your resume. Okay, so what we want to do then is we want to focus on keywords. And then for people who are trying to get into cyber for the first time, we also, and even if you're just trying to get promoted or just change jobs to another employer, you also want transferable skills. You want to identify the skills that they want in the job description with the skills that you possess. Now, the thing about transferable skills is that they don't necessarily look the same on the surface. And people are often overlooking transferable skills when they think about the work that they're doing now and previously versus the work that they would like to do. And so what I want to do today is focus on both keywords and transferable skills. Now, the way to get started with this is you are going to want to first get a position description that matches the job that you really want. And as you can see on my screen here on the left-hand side, I've got a job description for a cybersecurity analyst. And so you get that. And then you also want to get your tailored resume. Now, what do I mean by that? It's not just a matter of marking up or getting keywords and transferable skills highlighted in a resume that is generic, that you start with. See, you may have your eye on a couple of different positions. One of them might be cybersecurity analyst, maybe another one is IT auditor, and you're going to want to take your very basic resume, which has all of your job experience and all of your skills and so forth, and you're going to want to create a basic resume that's going to be focused on cybersecurity analyst. And then you're going to want to create a second basic resume that's going to focus on IT auditor. All right. So your tailored resume. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to customize this tailored resume. All right. And what you're going to do is you're going to start with the job description and you're going to highlight the keywords. Now, what are keywords? All right. So keywords are not just high frequency words, although that is important. It's also critical words and critical phrases that describe the essence of the job, and that's what you want to do. You want to go through the job description and you want to highlight words and phrases that are either high frequency or just get to the essence of what the job's all about. So let's take a look at this cybersecurity analyst job here in Washington or Texas, right? And I'll just move my head out of the way. All right, so this is at you recognize probably that's this logo, right? The C. This is Costco IT, and it's in Issaquah, Washington, which is outside of Seattle. And now you know how to pronounce that name, by the way. So if you ever wanted to interview with a company in Issaquah, make sure you know how to pronounce that name so you sound like a local. And it's a hybrid, which I believe means that you're going to do a combination of being in the office as well as remote. Now this is a big company, right? 1,000 to 5,000 employees, and this is considered mid senior level. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the job. So it starts with a description of the context, all right? And this is really important. So let's take a look at the about the job section. First thing you're going to see here is that they say that the secret to Costco's success is culture. So let's go ahead and highlight that. Now that means you're going to want to really emphasize this in your resume. So let's look over here. This is a fictitious resume for Leo Gray. And Leo's summary statement here is that he's already a cybersecurity analyst with experience again, right? Looking for an exciting opportunity in a great company. And so we're going to add something here, in a great company with a strong culture. All right. So that's an important signal that you're going to give to a hiring manager. It's also an important signature for the applicant tracking system. All right, so you get the idea. So you're going to go through there. Now, as we come down here to the role, all right. So works analytically. So that tells you that they're more of a data-driven decision-making organization. And centralized. So this is useful to know, is that they are centralized. Okay, regular security assessments, also important. Remember, analyze. Okay, here's analyze again. You're going to create and maintain diagrams. So I hope you like to write things down and create documentation. Works with custodians, information systems custodians. That means you're going to work with cross-functional teams. You should have something in your resume about your ability to work with cross-functional teams. And you're going to assist with auditing. That means you're going to be running checklists. And you're going to partner, okay? So whenever you see partner with other information security groups, again, that's cross-functional teaming, right? So now that's, again, some more context about the role. So let's take a look at our resume at this point. Okay, so we've got Leo's top skill is vulnerability management, which is great because this talked about performing assessments, right? So we want to make sure that the word assessments appears, and it does. There it is. There's assessments right there. Let me go ahead and just highlight it so you can see. So we have assessments, which is great. Create, maintain network and system diagrams. So let's see here, documentation. All right, so we've got some documentation in here, but we don't have the word, we don't have network and system diagram. So let's say Leo has done that, but just hasn't indicated that here. So, and network and system diagrams. See, now Leo's basic job is, or I should say Leo's background is QA test engineer. So he's really focused on things like that, right? Creating test cases, user documentation, that sort of thing. But he may have created network and system diagrams as a part of his job, but he didn't really think about that as being a big part of his future because he thought it was a minor part of his present, right? So that's why this is really important to get in here and analyze these job descriptions and get these keywords in. And this goes back to transferable skills, right? So as part of being a QA testing engineer, Leo actually picked up some transferable skills, and Leo needs to receive credit from a future employer, from having done that. So let's go ahead and highlight that. So another keyword, all right? Cross-functional teaming. I said that is something that is coming up here. Let me get rid of these extra spaces. And so, did Leo do any cross-functional teaming? Well, let's take a look at QA test engineer, provided technical support and testing, finding bugs in close collaboration with the development team. So yes, Leo has experience with cross-functional communication, but there's nothing in here that says anything about that. Like those words, right? So what are the words used over here? Works with, and let's see. So works with information, works with custodians. See, they don't really use the term cross-functional partners. There's a lot. That word assessments over and over and over again, right? So partners is probably the best word. So let's see. Let's go over here. In close collaboration with the development team, we're going to change this to say in close partnership, because partnership, those keywords are going to be pretty similar. And so you don't have to like conjugate your verbs exactly the same. The closer you can, the better, but don't torture your sentences. It's probably going to key on partner, right? So that should work really well. So I'm just going to highlight that. Now, before you turn in the resume, you're going to remove all this highlighting. But at this point, it's helpful to have the highlighting so you can get an idea of just how good of a job have you done, like how much keyword, and transferable skills improvements have you made to your resume. Okay, so that should give you a good idea. Let's go down here to the required section here. Routers, load balancers, proxies. All right, so if you had any experience with those, you would want that to appear in your resume. Highlight. Okay. Share knowledge, working knowledge, demonstrated experience. Okay, so this keyword demonstrated experience is coming up. So whenever you talk about doing something over here that you have experience in, you want to use that. So here, experience gathering requirements. So we want demonstrated experience, right? So there. All right. So I hope you get the idea of what's going on. Now, in this context, Leo is currently working in an IT type job, a QA testing engineer, and Leo wants to cross over into being a cybersecurity analyst. So so he's attempting a direct move from one to the other. But sometimes you are going to do what we call a two-step, and that's going to be when you move from your current position to an intermediate job on your way to your final job that you want. So you're going to go from, let's say, actually, we're going to look at an example of this in just a moment. Now let's take a look at a situation where we have Sarah Williamson. So here's Sarah Williamson. She's currently works in healthcare. So let's take a look at a situation where Sarah Williamson wants to cross over into cybersecurity, but Sarah needs to do a two-step because it's too great of a leap to go straight from vascular sonographer, which is Sarah's current job, directly into a network penetration tester role, which is what Sarah really wants to do. So we're going to do a two-step. And what's the middle step between a vascular sonographer and a network penetration tester? In this case, we're going to say it's an IT auditor. So this two-step, what it's going to allow Sarah to do is use her existing skills to get into a intermediate position. And this is great because it allows Sarah to avoid having to go back to a lower level, not well paid IT type job, maybe on a help desk or something, right? Sarah's been working in healthcare for a long time. You can see in this sample resume that Sarah first started working as a vascular sonographer in August of 2005. So Sarah's got skills and expertise, probably has a good salary, and cannot afford to give up 16 years of salary increases in order to take a low level IT job. So by making the 2 steps, she doesn't have to do that. Okay, so what transferable skills might Sarah have into a staff IT auditor position? Well, before we do the resume job description analysis, first of all, let's just think about this. So Sarah works in healthcare. Well, in order to do healthcare, Sarah has to be aware of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, which is HIPAA. Inside HIPAA, there is a lot of rules around the security of patient information and the privacy of patient information, and that is all absolutely transferable. Even if Sarah said, look, I don't want to be a staff auditor in a healthcare environment, let's say she's sick of healthcare and wants to go into the tech industry, even still, having an understanding of HIPAA is going to be extremely important, because even in the tech industry, Sarah could be assigned to jobs where there's a HIPAA angle to it, or let's say Sarah needs to cross over into something else and says, I don't want to hear the word HIPAA anymore. That is still a transferable skill. Sarah could learn PCI DSS, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, or GLBA, the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act. The point is that Sarah understands what it means to work to a law, and that's going to transfer. Now, Sarah also is used to writing diagnostic test reports and communicating with patients and staff about test results, and those are transferable skills as well. So what we're going to try to do now is we're going to try to surface those things as we customize Sarah's resume for this staff IT auditor job. So in this case, I actually picked out a staff IT auditor in a healthcare situation, just to make it a little bit easier to bridge the gap. And we'll start by looking at the job, and we can read about it. So there's a mission, right? So they're very mission oriented, company values. Okay, so the company has stated values. So let's focus on that. Remember, I said in the previous example, the company had stated that they had a strong culture. Here, this company is saying we have strong values, which is really the same thing. Different words, same thing. So let's take a look let's see the first thing Sarah can do. Aspiring IT auditor with a background providing outstanding patient care and support, and so forth, a lifelong learner, so forth, works well with people in all levels of the organization. Now, this summary statement is pretty good, but Sarah doesn't say anything about the type of organization that she wants to work in. So, looking for a company, and we'll say a healthcare company with strong values, where I can contribute and grow over time. Something like that, all right? So now look what we've done. We've incorporated strong values into her resume, which is great. All right, so let's go back over to the job description here. Rapidly growing organization. That's a key issue, because it's different working in a rapidly growing organization versus one that is not rapidly growing. There are different problems in a rapidly growing organization that don't typically appear in a more stable situation. So we want to check to see if Sarah has any experience working in a rapidly growing organization. And I'm looking at the job history here: analyze and so forth, recognized, maintained. See, I don't see any indication that Sarah worked in a rapidly growing organization. But let's say she did, and let's say that she just didn't put it on her resume because she didn't think it was relevant. Now, if she'd applied to a different job, it might not be relevant. But in this case, rapidly growing organization is relevant. All right. So what we can do, I can contribute to a rapidly growing organization. And we'll just get rid of that. There. Great. All right, let's go down to the role responsibilities. let's look for some keywords. Plan and execute, perform or assist, prepare, assist, maintain, preparing plans. Notice what's happening here. Plan and execute. Prepare detailed plans. Let's see, other keywords here. Prepare and review. So this is an organization that likes to plan ahead, obviously. Develop and execute a comprehensive audit plan. So are you picking this up? There's a lot of planning and documentation. So let's go back over here to job history and top skills. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Sarah has effective cross-functional communicator. We'll have to see if that's relevant. But the one thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add a new top skill. And that top skill, let's just go ahead and copy this bullet and go into this bullet here. And so let's see. How about we'll call this her top skill is planning. And then let's see what we can write in here. Experienced at preparing detailed plans and executing, we'll say preparing and executing detailed plans for patient care, something like that. Okay, great. So now we've got preparing and executing detailed plans. Now we're not making things up, right? We're not pretending that we did this when we really didn't. But my guess is Sarah probably did do this. And so we're just going to pull that out of her background, even though it wasn't in the resume. We're going to put it right there as a top skill. Because why? Keyword frequency and essence of the job. Clearly, that is what's going on here. Let's take a look. And we can keep going through here. Now, check this out. Basic knowledge of control objectives for information and related technology, or COBIT. So COBIT is an information governance standard. A lot of people have never heard of COBIT or don't even have any experience with COBIT. However, other relevant IT and information security frameworks, here's HIPAA security, all right? So let's highlight that. Now, Sarah doesn't know what COBIT is, but she does know what HIPAA security is. So, compliance. Notice here, Sarah says 16 plus years maintaining the security and privacy of patient records, only accessing patient records as a really. She did a great job of talking about compliance, but she didn't mention HIPAA. So let's add that, HIPAA, and don't misspell this, all right? It's not HIPPA. I see a lot of people make that mistake. It makes you look silly. Don't do that. Make sure you get your acronyms correct. All right, so now Sarah has something in there related to HIPAA. Perfect. And let's say Sarah went and took a course on COBIT, or watched some videos or something like that. It's possible that she could say down here in the education and certifications area, completed self-study course on COBIT, and she'd put the date, so month, year. All right, so there. Now this is interesting because she was able to say something about COBIT to get it onto the resume, and didn't lie, didn't make up more experience than she had. So this is fantastic. Now she has COBIT on the resume, and in a credible way. All right. So I hope this gives you a really good understanding about how to tailor your resumes to specific job descriptions, specific jobs that you want. And, I took my time and I did not rush through this, but I hope you can see that if you just put your documents side by side and you really focus and you do this a few times, you're going to see that this is going to go very, very quickly and is not going to take up a ton of your time. I know a lot of people are concerned about, it's going to take too long for me to customize a resume every time, but I hope you can see this is really not that big of a chore. And if you're willing to do it and the other people who are trying to get the job are not willing to do it, well, then that's going to accomplish the goal, which is you're going to stand out in the applicant tracking system, and you're going to stand out when a hiring manager actually reads your resume. So appreciate your time and attention. Thanks so much.
Hey everybody, we're back. All right, so lots of great questions in the chat. I hope you guys liked the way that we did that, where we kind of had that pre-recorded video, and we did grab a bunch of questions. I think we got 5 or 6 that Tamara has highlighted that we didn't answer in the chat that we're going to answer live for you as well in a few minutes. As you can tell, I talk faster. Let me slow myself down again. I think I've had too much coffee, and Kip didn't have enough, because I could tell he's very slow and I'm very fast. So sorry about that, just personality difference. I know I don't drink coffee, my soda. Yeah. Well, lots of Coca-Cola, lots of tea. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I hope you guys guys and gals out there have enjoyed the lesson on how to work with your resume to really start grabbing the hiring manager's attention and get it through ATS. Now, again, we just kind of did a quick jump into it here for about 20 to 30 minutes to show you exactly how we do these type of things and what really helps. Now, as some of you may be aware, Kip and I do have a program that helps you with your resume, interviewing, and negotiation skills to help get you up to speed fast. If you want to start seeing the results that you've always dreamed of, if you want to be a confident professional and be able to permanently get removed from those ups and downs of the global economy and recessions, if you want to have employers and recruiters reaching out to you, and you want to start working professionally with experienced hiring managers like Kip and I to help navigate this process, well, here's what we have for you tonight. First, we have a great free tool that I definitely recommend you take advantage of. In the description of this episode, you'll see at the top, it has a link there. It is yourcyberpath.com, which is our podcast homepage /hiring quiz, yourcyberpath.com/hiring quiz. And I think that's shown on the screen right now if she pays attention. And we created this really quick, simple survey quiz to help you identify exactly where you're getting filtered out in the hiring process. Now, it could be your resume like we talked about tonight. It could be your interviewing skills. It could be your negotiation skills. It may be that you don't have the right certifications, or you have too many, or you don't have the right degrees, or you have too many. Whatever it is, we're going to be able to help you identify what the problem is so you can start working on it. To do that, just go over to yourcyberpath.com/hiring quiz and take the free Struggling to Get Hired quiz. Once you do that, you're going to get your results from that quiz. You're going to get a quick video from Kip that tells you how that thing is important, whether it's resumes, interviews, negotiations, and what you can do to really stand out in that area. And again, it's a really short 1 to 2 minute video response. And then you'll also get several emails over the next couple of days that are going to go more in depth about the 3 threes of hired that I mentioned earlier, which talks about your resumes, your interviews, and your negotiations, and how we can work directly with you to help hiring managers absolutely fall in love with you. Now, whatever your biggest challenges with hiring are, we have seen it all, and we know how to overcome it. You've listed a couple of your challenges in chat, and we're going to discuss those as well tonight. Now, the quiz at yourcyberpath.com/hiring quiz is really quick. It only takes about 3 minutes, and it could really change your life by identifying exactly where you're stumbling and identifying how you can get over that block and that thing that's preventing you from getting your next cybersecurity position. And like I said, it is completely free, no cost at all. You can go over there and take it right away. All right, now, if you want to learn more about our Hired program, which is where we work directly with you, you can also go over to yourcyberpath.com/hired and learn more about our exclusive training program that's getting ready to begin our next group of students, which actually starts in just about a week and a half. It's going to be starting on March 6th, and this is our last Hired program for the next few months, and this is timed for the spring hiring season. We only do these a couple of times a year. We did one in January, we did one in February, and we're doing one in March because that's getting people prepared for this spring hiring season. But then we take a couple of months off because as you start getting into June, July, and August, things start slowing down and people aren't hiring as much. So you really want to take advantage of that spring hiring session. And so if you want to learn more about how you can work directly with Kip or myself, or both of us actually, this is going to be your chance. All right.
Yeah, now Kip. I want to tell you a little bit about the program.
Yeah.
So if you join our program, when you join our program, you're going to spend about 30 minutes with us each day learning exactly what the hiring process involves. And it's going to be from the hiring manager's perspective, which most people don't know what that's like. And it's so valuable for you to know. And when you find out what it is, we're going to help you actually then know how to hack that process to your advantage, right? So we're going to tell you what our cards look like and you've probably never seen them before. So you're going to get exclusive access to both me and Jason during the program. You're going to get a personal review of your resume, and I'm also going to give you a critique of your interviewing skills. So that'll come straight from me, both of those. And after the initial training program's over, you're going to continue to have full access to us for a year in our community. And you're going to be able to talk to other graduates who have already joined us and graduated, many of whom have gotten the jobs that they had their eye on, and or that maybe they've seen some jobs that you would be interested in, right? So these are people who either in your position or were recently in your position, right? And you're going to be in here with them, and we're going to be able to continue to mentor you, to mentor them. You'll be able to see the questions that everybody's asking, and you'll be able to benefit from that as you go through the job hunting process, and also during your initial months of success on the job. Here's the thing, though, because it's so personalized, we can't take everybody who wants to join it if it's over 20 people. Once we hit 20, that's it. We close the cohort and we get underway, because I don't want to have to uh, really limit the amount of time that I'm going to spend with each one of you. So I want to give you the maximum amount of time that we have available. So if you're interested in joining, you need to check it out, to go to the URL and sign up, because we're going to start again in about a week and a half, as Jason said. And there's only going to be 20 spots. And then, you'll have to wait for the next one, which I think, Jason, you said we're going to do that again in a few months, right? Because this is all about
Yeah.
hiring seasons.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not we do this every month. Originally, when we designed the program, we were going to do it as a once a month program. But what we found was there were several months that it just didn't make sense to do it, because you'd go through the program and then you wouldn't be able to take advantage of it because nobody was hiring during that time. Because if you try to get a job in July, for instance, that tends to be a really bad time to try to look for a job, because no one wants to hire anybody in July. They're all busy going out on vacation, going to Disney World, and all that kind of stuff. So we built this
We did a whole
program
podcast on this.
We did, yeah. We have an entire podcast. I think it was episode, it's in the 50s. I think it's like 56 or 57, that talks about the calendar and when those big peak hiring seasons are. And again, you can check that out at yourcyberpath.com, where all of our podcast episodes live. Now, let me just tell you a little bit more about this program, and then we're going to answer all your questions you had from chat. I want to let you just know what you're going to get inside this program, right? You're going to be able to learn how to write your resume based on the job you want to achieve, similar to what we did tonight, but way, way more in depth, right? We're also going to help you identify your highly transferable skills and highlight those in your resume. We're going to help you figure out how to get the right job based on your personality type, because there's some jobs that just aren't a good fit for some people. If you like things that are very procedural, you're not going to want to be a pen tester. If you hate procedures, you don't want to be an auditor, right? These are the things you have to figure out about yourself, and all sorts of other keys to building your successful resume to land those interviews. We'll also run your resume through our AI Manager's hiring system to show you how you're scoring and where you may be getting filtered out before a human ever sees your resume, because as a person who's applying for jobs, you have no idea when you're being filtered out by ATS. And so this is something we want to help you identify so you can learn these things. And again, as Kip said, you're going to get personalized feedback on how to fix your resume mistakes directly from him. He's going to pull up your resume on the screen, mark it up, and circle it and show you exactly what he likes, what he doesn't like, all that kind of good stuff. Then we move into the interview phase, which is the second part of our 3 Threes of Hired. This is where you start learning about what you should and shouldn't say during an interview, how you can showcase things in your history to take it to your advantage instead of detracting from you. And we're also going to do mock interviews with you to help you get individualized feedback that, again, Kip's going to give you one-on-one feedback based on your different technical, non-technical, and fit-based questions and your responses. In the third week of the program, we start focusing on something that's really important to all of you and can really put a lot more money in your pocket, and that is salary negotiations. This is about how to really hit the ground running in your new career, how to get that job by not overpricing or underpricing yourself, and then being successful as you take your first new position. Now, this week alone can help you earn thousands of dollars more per year by using the right tricks and tips during your negotiation process. Now, in addition to all of that, we have a couple of different bonuses that we give you when you sign up for the Hired program. Now, if you sign up, you're also going to get our exclusive Cleared course. And this is one that I built specifically because I had a lot of people ask me about government hiring, specifically with security clearances here in the United States and how that whole thing works if you want to work as a government contractor or government employee. This course is your complete guide to understanding that U.S. government job market, both on the contract side and the government civilian side, as well as the security clearance application process and the entire world of defense contracting. Now, if you're worried that no one's going to hire you because you don't have a clearance, this course can help you fully understand the ins and outs of that process so you can then hack your way into one of those jobs.
And you really can sometimes hack your way into it. It's amazing some of the backdoors that can be available to you, and that course is going to cover all that. You're also going to get some other things too. You're going to get my perfect resume template. You're going to get our top 40 people skill interview questions. Some people call them soft skill questions, and our top 40 hard skill interview questions. So these are lists of 40 questions in each of the domains that you can read and write out your answers and practice before you ever even get into the interview. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, we've got an exclusive members only community. And that's where Jason and I are your mentor in the community with everybody who's ever gone through our program, anybody who ever will go through the program. And we're going to guide you through the hiring process, even after the lessons are over with. And we're going to answer your questions. You'll be able to look at all the questions that other people have asked so that and if they've asked one of the questions that you want to ask, you're going to get your answer a lot faster than waiting for us to respond. So, listen, if you're ready to change your career and you want to get that cybersecurity position, then you're going to want to be part of our program. And all you have to do is go to yourcyberpath.com/hired for all the details. Now, you're probably saying, okay, Kip, sounds good. And it is, because we've got people who've gone through the program. We're super happy. Um, why should you join now? Okay, look, we've got all these bonuses and everything, but there's another thing that's going on that you really have to pay attention to. All right. And that's a concept called opportunity cost. And maybe you've heard of this before, maybe you haven't, but in the business world, this is a big deal. Let me tell you what opportunity cost means. It means that while you're not doing something, there's a cost associated with it. Let me just give you a super simple example, right? If my daughter was selling lemonade, and let's say it's a hot summer day and she's, tired, so she opens up her stand 3 hours late. Well, she's going to lose up to 3 hours worth of sales. That's the opportunity cost of being lazy that morning and not wanting to go out and open up her lemonade stand. Now, the same that also happens to us when we're thinking about going out and getting a job, but we keep putting it off, we keep delaying it, and so you don't want to do that, right? So the faster you can get that new job, the less salary you're going to leave on the table. I hope that makes sense. Um, Now, here's the thing. Jason and I, we do a podcast. We give away tons of information. If you listen to all our podcast episodes and join us for these, trainings that we're going to do, you can probably take all this stuff, stitch it together, and still get and use this information to get yourself hired. And if that's what you choose to do, that's great. And I hope that we are able to help you. But but think about the difference in how much time it's going to take you to get it pulled together versus going through our program. Let's say that you're going to get a position with a $70,000 a year salary. Let's say it took you 6 months to finally get through the door and get that job. But if you could have gotten that job in only 2 months by working with us, then you'll save 4 months of waiting, and that's over $20,000 of additional income because you don't have to spend those extra 4 months trying to make it happen on your own. All right, so let me just break this down a little bit so that the math is clear. $70,000 a year is $5,800 per month, right? So if you can get hired 4 months quicker, it's a really simple calculation. 4 times 5,800, and that's about $23,000 in your pocket, right? That's what opportunity cost is. It's not having to leave money on the table. So think about that. Think about the kind of job that you want, and think about how fast you want to get it. So, our program could cost $5,000, $10,000, or anything like that, right? Because you're still going to get that extra $20,000 of income because you're going to be able to avoid those extra 4 months of searching. Now, we don't charge that much money. So it's even better of a deal, right, than you can imagine. So you're going to get huge savings, and you're going to get a big return on your investment by joining our program and getting hired faster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the other thing is that we make it risk-free because we want you to have a great experience with us, right? We have a money-back guarantee in the program. You could try hire for the first 7 days, and that's basically going through the first week of lessons until we get to the resumes where Kip actually starts going through your particular resume. And as you go through that first week of the program, if you find out that it's not for you, you'd be better off without us, we'll refund your money right away. No questions asked. Just email us, and we'll put the money right back on your credit card. So really it comes down to, if you're ready to make a change in your career and you really want to land that new cybersecurity position, you want to be a part of this program. And again, we're going to be starting on March 6th, and we graduate on March 26th with this particular cohort. And this program is happening right now at the time to take advantage of the upcoming spring hiring season, which starts happening right in the middle to end of March. So you really don't want to miss it. This is kind of your last chance for this spring hiring season. Now, as you know, there's never been a period of higher demand for cybersecurity professionals. So now is really the time for you to act and get hired in less time with having the right mentors at your side. So once again, if you want to go check that out, you can go on over to yourcyberpath.com/hired, which is right below me, it looks like. And you can join today and learn more about the program and then change the trajectory of your career moving forward. I'm sorry, it's late here in Puerto Rico. So yeah, I wanted to thank you again for spending your time with us as we went through the resumes earlier and as we told you a little bit about this hired program. And we really want to help work with you to help get you hired. Now, that said, we are going to jump into our Q&A section. Tamara has pulled out the questions for us, so I'm going to switch screens so I can see those and see if Tamara puts one on the screen for me.
So the first thing I'm going to do is just a quick thing so that way you know about it and it doesn't get lost. Oh, that was the wrong button.
Okay, Tamara says she's going to do a quick thing so I don't get lost.
So this doesn't get lost. Somebody was trying to order but keeps getting an error about test card, and I said, you'll figure that out.
Oh, sorry, that's my fault. Okay, so Kip's going to answer the first question while I fix test card.
Okay.
The first question is, pop it on the screen, I'll read it.
It's going to say the first question is going to be a two-parter. I've got to scroll to find it again. Oh, on the wrong side. Ah. Okay, so this is the first of two parts that he has asked.
All right, the first part of two parts is Dante, I think is how you pronounce it. Dante Wynn says, I've been working at the help desk for 2 years now. Prior to that, I was working in the social work field. Currently, I'm shadowing the security analyst at my job. Should I take off the social work experience? Before Kip answers that, I want to say awesome and kudos to you, Dante, because you're doing exactly what I would recommend. You're in a job that's not directly tied to cybersecurity, but you're already shadowing, making friends, making connections, and doing that internal networking, and that's going to pay off. Sorry, Kip, back to you.
No, that's absolutely true. And here's the thing. So make sure that you understand what the job is that you're going to apply for. Spend time reading the job description. I'm assuming that at some point you're going to be able to see a job description and you're going to be able to read it and then make a formal application. Now, this is advice for your specific situation, but I think it's also applicable to anybody else. If you have prior experience in a different career field, what I want you to do is just what we showed you tonight in the lesson, which is look at the job description and then try to figure out, is there anything in my background, in your case from the social work experience, that I can use as a transferable skill going forward? So, for example, if you're going to become a network penetration tester, you really don't have to spend a lot of time interacting with customers or a lot of people. And so there may not be as much opportunity for a transferable skill. But if you're going to work in a governance, risk, and compliance job, and again, we showed you that in the lesson tonight, then you're probably going to have to work with a lot of cross-functional teams. You might have to work with internal customers. And so I would think that your social work experience would be incredibly valuable because why? Because you're probably a very relationship-focused person, and you understand how to handle people who are maybe having an emotional moment, and you're going to stay really calm while they're freaking out on you because you're telling them, hey, there's a new rule that you've got to comply with, and they don't want to do that. So the general guidance for this question is as follows. Always read the job description and only put in your resume what applies to the job that you want and leave out everything else, because the hiring manager is only interested in the stuff that really relates to the job you're trying to get.
Yeah, and the one thing I would add in that is that you don't want to end up having gaps in your resume, though, because you left out an entire job because it didn't relate. You'd want to be able to put that job in so you're not showing that gap, but then try to figure out what did I do in that job that somewhere, somehow actually relates to it. For instance, my wife, when she was younger, used to work at a pet store. Has absolutely nothing to do with cybersecurity, right? But she had communication skills. She had some selling skills. She had some budgeting skills from doing inventory. And so she could list those things based on that as she's trying to go for a cybersecurity job. You're not lying, but you're making sure that what you're putting is relevant. And again, you want to make sure things are staying in line so you're not having big gaps, because any gap, basically it brings up a question in my mind as a hiring manager. And now you either need to answer that question if I give you the chance, or I just go, not worth it, next. right? And so that's the problem, is you got to get through those people. I do want to say thank you for pointing out the test thing. Let me talk about why that is for a second, because stupid Jason. And then we'll answer the second part of the question. So I've been really, really, really hard at work for this latest cohort of hired. We are going to a new system, and the people who join this cohort are going to be the first ones in that brand new system. So I was working till about 4 a.m. last night, working on making sure all things were working, and I forgot to turn off the test mode. So that's my fault. But the good news is the system is working. You can now purchase. But in addition to that, the community that Kip was talking about is so much better now compared to what we used to have. Essentially, it's our own private Facebook group. It's fully integrated into the course, and it's a gorgeous site. You're going to love it. So anyway, sorry,
and,
that's
can I
just
just
me
can I just
off on
thank
a side note.
can I just thank Rick? Can I just thank Rick, because Rick, you've opted in to the program, and we're really grateful that you did that, and we're really looking forward to working with you.
Definitely. Thank you, Rick. And you will get a special message from Kip or I in the next 24 hours as well, officially welcome you to the group. But thank you. I didn't even see that because my chat is about this small on my screen. So Rick, thank you for finding the error, and thank you for signing up. So the second part of Deontay's question, Deontay or Dante, I'm not sure which way I'm pronouncing it, right or wrong. That's probably one of those. Will shadowing the cybersecurity analyst at my current job help me to land a job in cybersecurity? Yes, 1,000 times yes. Yeah, so a great story about this one actually goes back to podcast episode, I wish I had a little cheat sheet. It's somewhere around 59 to 61. We had Eduardo was on the show, right? Edward or Eduardo. I can't remember his name now. Oh God, I feel so stupid. One of the guys on my team's name is Eduardo, so that's sticking in my head, but I think his name was Edward, right? Kip, do you remember?
I'm looking it up. Keep talking.
Okay, he's looking it up for me. Thank you, Kip. Anyway, he'll tell you the episode number, but on that episode, we spent about 35 minutes talking with him about how he got his job in cybersecurity. And the really cool thing about his story was he went from, in 18 months, working at a bicycle repair shop, fixing bicycles, to working, doing cybersecurity analyst work as a government contractor in Honolulu in 18 months. Zero experience prior to that. His degree was a music major in college. He then went and got a job working at a bike shop, and then he got a job in the help desk. And while he was in the help desk, he started going over and saying, hey, support guys, can I help you with some of this security stuff you're doing? Can I help you with some of the system administration stuff you're doing? And they let him do that. And then as he was going out doing his help desk job, he was working with other places around the island that were all tied to this government contract. And he basically made a great impression. They go, you know what? If you can get your Security Plus, I'll take a chance on you and make you a cybersecurity analyst. And so he did. And with that certification, they were able to place him into that contract and got him into that role. I'm very out of focus. Okay. Wow. I am very out of focus. Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, that's horrible. I'm going to turn off my camera and turn it back on and see if that helps. But that is a story of how that happened, Deontay. So I would definitely recommend it, because the connections you make with people will really end up doing a great bit of service for you. Deontay? Deontay. Okay, cool. Yeah, right. Sorry. I have Dion on the brain because that's my name. But yeah, so, those connections you make, you never know where your next job's going to come from, but it will likely come from either the skills you're gaining by working with them, because you're going outside your normal job to gain these skills, and you're making physical connections, because when they have another position open, they're going to go, you know what? Deontay's been working with us for the last 3 months. Let's give him a shot and bring him up, and they can hire internally as well. So
it's a great way to show that you really care about this role, and it's going to. Hiring managers love to see that you have some passion and some curiosity. I mean, those things are it's like catnip for a hiring manager.
Yep. I don't know why I am so fuzzy, folks. I'm sorry. I'm not going to try to fix it right now because it's just going to screw things up. But hopefully you can still hear me, even if you can't see me well. Would it be relevant to include certs that you're actively studying for or even have a voucher for on a resume, looking at entry-level stuff? Now, here is where Kip and I are going to give you why it's so important that you get 2 mentors, because we're going to give you 2 different opinions. I know Kip's answer on this, and my answer is completely different. So Kip, go first.
All right. Well, we're going to see how good you are at reading my mind. So I think it's perfectly fine to say that you're pursuing a certification, but you need to put that in your education section. Don't list it like as a top skill. Don't portray, in any way that you've actually received the certification yet. Sometimes it happens that you have a certification and it is expired. So I have quite a few certifications that are expired, and I still would put my certification on my resume, and I wouldn't say that I have it. I would simply say that I earned it, and I would just leave it at that. If anybody asks me, is it active? I'd say no, it's not. I let it lapse, but I did earn it at one point, and it was active for a certain amount of time. But the point is that for the purposes of keyword, in ATS, and also for the purposes of demonstrating to a hiring manager that you are working on something, I think it goes on your resume.
Yeah, and so this is where Kip and I disagree. So I'm going to give you my perspective. And this is my hiring manager hat I'm going to put on. I was hiring for a position several years ago, and it was for a fairly senior level position. And we said, for this position, you must have CISSP, because for this particular contract that we were working on, you had to have CISSP as part of our agreement. Was we were going to find somebody to fill this role, and they had to have that. And if we hired somebody who didn't have CISSP, we were allowed to hire somebody with it, but we had to get them it within 3 months. And if we didn't, we'd have to fire them. And this was for an overseas position. So if I had to hire Kip, fly him out to Europe, have him move his whole family out there, and 3 months later fire him because he couldn't pass a test, that would really suck, right? And so our thought was, we're only hiring people who have a CISSP. Now, a lot of people played the resume games, and they did the keyword stuffing like we kind of talked about a little bit tonight, right? And that's fine in some cases, but as a hiring manager, when HR gave me the resumes, we had over 1,000 applicants. HR went through and filtered them, and they gave me a stack of 83 people who, quote, met my minimum acceptable criteria, which one of those criteria was had CISSP. On those resumes, 80 of them did not have CISSP. 3 of them did. So I interviewed those 3 folks, and one of those 3 folks got the job. Now, why did the other 80 make it through HR? Well, because human resources doesn't know anything. They just saw the letter CISSP and let it go through and threw it on my desk. And so what ended up happening was, I, as a hiring manager at the time, I was running a network with 15,000 users. I had 400 people working for me, $2 million budget. I'm a busy guy, and I'm trying to fill a position because I have a need. And now I have to spend my time going through 83 resumes when 80 of them didn't meet my requirements. So I spent about 6 to 60 seconds per resume, and I started scanning through. And if I saw the word CISSP, the first thing I looked for was, what was the context? And most of the time what I saw was, took a CISSP boot camp 2 years ago. Planning to take my CISSP at the end of this year. Things like that, which was, the word was in context, just like Kip told you tonight, right? You can do that. But I will tell you that this particular hiring manager was pissed off. And so for me, it was an immediately, I don't want you, and I threw you away. Now, that said, from what Kip told you tonight, it worked, right? Because they put the right keywords in there to get past the system and past the filters. So at least I had to look at them. And maybe I would have saw something on that resume that said, you know what, I'm willing to take a chance on this guy. But in my case, because of the uniqueness of our situation, I didn't want to hire somebody, move them across the world, pay $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to move them and their family, and then have to move them back in 3 months. It wasn't worth the risk. And so I know that traditionally, especially with CISSP, there is a pass rate of about 20%, which means out of 5 people who take the test today, 1 will pass. So when I said I want somebody who was CISSP certified, it meant I want somebody who had already done that hard work and passed the exam. So that is my bias when it comes to listing things on your resume. The other thing is, if you list it on there, some of them, the way they listed it was, took a boot camp 2 years ago. In my mind, what that tells me as a hiring manager is, you're either A, too lazy to take the certification because you've had 2 years, or B, you couldn't pass it and it's been 2 years. Either way, you're not my candidate. Gone, right? So those are the ways I look at it. And again, like I said, Kip and I, we take a different view here. And again, that also comes from the fact that we come from different worlds. One of the things you may not know is that Kip has spent the last 20 years in the civilian commercial sector, dealing with companies in the fintech world, the advertising world, the entertainment world, sports teams, and things like that. And they don't have contractual requirements most of the time based on certain certifications. I've spent the last 20 years dealing with the military, government, and defense contracting world. And in our world, there are specific requirements that say, thou shalt have this certification for this particular job. And if you don't get it within 3 to 6 months, we have to fire you. And so for my world, it is so much more important than those certifications. And so if you put studying for my Security Plus and planning to have it in 3 weeks, I'm okay with that. But if you told me you took a class 6 months ago and you're still not certified, gone. It took you too long. right? So that's kind of my philosophy on it, and that's why we kind of differ. And I think that's one of the benefits of our program is that we do have these different personalities and different thought processes on this because we do come from both sides. And so whether you're looking to go defense contracting or regular civilian world, you have somebody who can help you on either side. All right, let's see. Hi from Australia. I'm not sure what you're saying is globally applicable for cybersecurity jobs or only for the US. Great question. As far as where this advice applies to, when we talk about jobs and we specifically talk about salary ranges and the hiring process, the experience that Kip and I personally have are in the US and Canada, and the experience that I have outside of the US, I have hired for several positions outside the US, but they were all for US government organizations and working with government defense contractors. So in my particular case, I've never hired for a bank in Australia, for instance, right? I have hired for a contractor to go work for the US government down in Australia, though. And so that's a little bit of a difference. So when we talk about these resume things, our lens is definitely focused on US and Canada specifically. Kip, do you have anything to add to that?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Yeah. Will the stuff we teach work in other places? Probably, but there are some things that are different in different places that you'd have to adjust for. For instance, I have several people on my team who are from the Philippines. And one of the things that was really strange for me when I got applications from the Philippines was on their resume, they would tell me their height, their weight, where they went to elementary school, middle school, and high school, blood type, hair color. And I'm like, I don't need to know any of this stuff in the US. That's all illegal to ask. But in the Philippines, that was, I guess, a common thing to put on your resumes. And so there are differences. And I know that I've worked with some people in the UK, and the stuff we teach works there. I haven't had a student in Australia that we've worked with directly, so I don't know how applicable it is directly to Australia. All right. Next question. Heather asked, what do you put for a title under your name? Is it the job posting you have? Kip?
Well, so what we tell people is that when you are writing your summary statement, which is going to appear at the top of your resume, you want, if you can, to weave the job description for the job that you're going for, the job title from the job description into your resume, if you can, but you have to do it without being deceptive. And so you could say, I'm an aspiring SOC analyst, or I'm an aspiring governance, risk, and compliance analyst, or something like that. Or let's say you have some experience and you've been in a feeder job that goes directly to the job you want. So let's say you've been a systems administrator or a network administrator, and you're trying to get a penetration testing job. You could start by saying experienced systems administrator or experienced network administrator desiring to get a network penetration testing job or something like that. The point is that you do want to try to weave the job title into your resume if you can, for the keyword benefit. Also, because once you get through ATS and a hiring manager is looking at that resume, if you're successful, they're going to say, holy moly, this person thought about who they are now. They thought about the job that they want. They have clearly read what the job description says. I'm interested. I'm going to keep reading this resume. So I hope that clarifies it. What would you add, Jason?
Yeah, I'm just reading the question as a little differently as well. And so I'm going to do it from the way I'm understanding the question, or maybe my spin on it. But if you're asking about your previous jobs that you're listing on your resume and what job titles you put there, depending on the organization you came from, they may be okay with you changing what the title is that makes it more applicable. A good example of this is I work with a lot of military folks. And if I say that you were the deputy director of the TNOSC, that probably means absolutely nothing to anybody here. But what that really means is you were the assistant IT director for an organization with a $5 million budget and 500,000 computers underneath you, right? And so if you talk to your boss, who's going to be the person who they're going to call to verify your references and say, hey, do you mind if I write down this as associate IT director, right? Or whatever that civilian equivalent would be, most of the time they're okay with that. And so you do sometimes have that flexibility. I've also seen people when they take a job, they'll negotiate a different job title when they go into that position to help them set up for the next job they're planning on going to next, right? So it may be that you want to be listed as a junior vulnerability analyst instead of a junior system administrator, because you're doing the same work and they don't really care what's on paper as long as you're doing the job. And you might be able to get that position that you want listed, so that next time you apply for a vulnerability analyst instead of a system administrator, because those are two different career fields and two different monies, vulnerability analyst makes a lot more, you can go that direction. So that's the way I think about titles is, to me, it's a negotiation thing.
Valid.
All right. Michael Marin, if it so happens that one does have a gap in their resume, how should we prepare to answer it from a hiring manager if they give us the chance? Yeah, so it really depends on what that gap is. And I know we've worked with several people with different gaps. Some of the common ones I see, probably not Michael's particular issue, but I've had some women that have worked with us who took off a year because they had a baby and they were going home and doing the mommy thing, and then they had to come back, and there had to be a way to explain that you weren't just on the beaches of Bali for 12 months. Kip, I know you have a great saying on this, so I'm going to let you do your rant.
Yeah. So listen, whatever it is that you were doing with your gap, as long as you were doing something that was creating a skill that you could use in the job or gave you an experience that you can draw from, then you should put it on the resume. Even if it was something like, I took a year off to care for my dying mother. Holy moly. I want to know that, because that tells me so much about your character, tells me so much about what kind of a person you are, how relationship oriented you are. I mean, there's all kinds of skills and capabilities in what you did that I could never teach you. I couldn't. And so if the job that you want has a human element to it or something like that, then my gosh, you want to put that in there. And listen, if you put that in there and you get rejected, you don't want to work for those people anyway. So it's a great way to avoid landing in the kind of corporate culture that you're going to probably end up despising.
Yeah, I mean, usually, some of the really easy ones to explain are, I was sick, a family member was sick, I had a baby and I had to stay home and take care of baby. I went back to school, I went to improve my education, I went to an internship, I moved overseas for a year to go do X, Y, and Z. Something like that, where you can put context to what does that bring value to the organization. And being a family-oriented person is important in a lot of companies. Other companies will actually hit you for it because they don't care. And you want to be in the right place for you. And that's one of the things we do talk about in the program as well. Tamara, Kwame, military veteran with counterintelligence background, pursuing a master's in information technology with an emphasis on cybersecurity. How can I write my resume to get a cybersecurity job? So a couple of things. I've worked with a lot of military vets. I've done a lot of them over the years, and intelligence folks especially. One of the people that we normally talk about when we do our webinar talking about hired is Casey. And Casey is a guy I worked with that was in the Navy, they call it an intel specialist. He was an imagery guy. His job was to look at photographs and figure out where the planes and the bombs and the submarines were. But he also had a clearance, and he also had a desire to do IT. And so he went like you did, and he was getting that degree. In his case, it was a bachelor's degree because he was enlisted and he didn't have a master's or a bachelor's yet. And he also got a couple of key certs. And between his certs and his intelligence background, he was able to get a job working for government contractors that are doing work in cyber intelligence. And so you can move from a traditional intel to a cyber intel. And then if you want to go into a technical cyber job, we call that our two-step, right? Something that's close and then something that's your end state. And that would work in your case. If your clearance is still active, I don't know how long you've been out, that is something really you can lean on, because I will tell you, most companies would rather hire somebody with a clearance and a cert without experience than somebody with a cert and experience with no clearance. And it's just because the clearance process is so darn long sometimes. It can take anywhere from 3 to 18 months to get somebody their clearance. So if you have a clearance, it's a lot quicker. If you had one before and it's lapsed, it's still quicker than starting over from zero. And so that is an advantage. Another thing is being a military vet. Having that background is something you can rely on as well. A lot of companies want to hire military vets because there are some government programs that give them a discount on some of their taxes by hiring a military vet. As well as a lot of companies just believe it's the right thing to do. And so a lot of them are searching for those people as well. So yeah, in your case, there's a lot of things in your background that you can leverage into a new job in cybersecurity, whether that's for the government as a contractor or even in the civilian world too. There's a lot of civilian companies that really appreciate the military work ethic that is put into people when they are a military veteran. Kip, do you have anything to add on that?
Nope. I think you covered
Nope,
it.
I did all. Okay. Sorry, that's my world anyway. I'm the military guy.
This is very related to it.
Should we list inactive security clearances? Yes, depending on what you're applying for, right? So if you're applying for working at a bank over in Seattle, they probably don't care about your security clearance at all. If you're applying to go work for a government contractor or a GS position, saying that you were, that you had X clearance, top secret, secret, whatever it was, can be beneficial because they know that you were already cleared up to that point. And now really when it goes through the clearance system, they're only really checking the delta. So if you were cleared up till 3 years ago and you haven't done anything cleared in 3 years, they're really only worried about what did you do in the last 3 years, as opposed to what did you do the last 18 years, or technically the last 10 years is what they look for otherwise. And so knowing that you had a clearance before is like a mitigating factor than somebody who had no clearance ever. Sorry, I think I just cut Kip off again. I'm sure Tamara's got something to do, Kip.
There we go. How about this one?
All right. This is a good one for Kip. All right. So what's the best strategy to not give any hint about your age on a resume? I know this is definitely something you cover a lot.
Yeah, it is. This is the term here is ageism. It's age-based discrimination, and it's like a lot of other illegal discrimination. Some of it is deliberate but unspoken, and some of it is just unconscious bias. So, and you can't know, right, unless a hiring manager actually says something or writes something that will obviously indicate that you're being discriminated against based on your age. So look, here's the thing. You can't lie, all right, because that's going to be a big integrity problem. And cybersecurity careers are all about integrity. So you cannot lie. But you can do things to help yourself, like you don't have to put the year that you graduated on anything that's far in your past. I'd say don't put anything on there that's over 10 years old if you can avoid it. You don't have to put your graduation date from university on there. If they want to find out that and they ask you about it later, you should tell them. Because here's the thing. In the beginning, it's about getting through the applicant tracking system and getting an interview. Once you get the interview, guess what? They're going to figure out pretty quickly that you're over 40. It's just going to happen that way. All right. So don't do anything in your resume that's going to make them, really, really expect that they're going to talk to a 25-year-old person and you're 50. So it's a line that you've got to walk here. All right. You're going to want to do some other things too. When I do resume reviews for people who join our program, one of the things I tell them is do not put AOL.com as your email address on a resume, because if you're applying to
Yahoo.
Hotmail's not a good idea, Yahoo's not a good idea, right? Especially if you're applying to a job in the tech sector. That just really screams I am old and out of touch to a hiring manager. And you might think, oh, I can't believe anybody would filter me out for that. Well, it happens all the time. So, you got to be thinking about that. Don't use old-timey fonts, like Times New Roman, right? Believe it or not, a lot of hiring managers have the perception that if you're using an old font like that that you in fact are an older person. So you're going to want to use a more modern font. So it's all kinds of subtle things like that. So I hope this is, giving you some good, guidance to go on. Did you want to add anything, Jason?
Yeah, I was gonna say the only reason I would ever put something past 10 years back in your resume is if you needed it, because we had one student, it was a couple of cohorts before, that their experience from being in tech was from like 2005 to 2010. Then they left that and they went and worked, I think, as like an insurance broker for like 10 years, and now they want to get back in tech. So they had to list that older thing just to say, hey, look, I have some tech experience, but that's kind of the exception to the rule. In general, you really don't need to go back more than 10 years unless you're really just trying to pull something from that old position that you need to bring back. Or I had somebody who I was working with who was was in the field, did really awesome things early on, and then left for 15 years because she went to go raise her kids. And that was a choice that her and her husband had made, and that's totally fine. But now she's trying to get back into the industry, and the last job she had was 15 years ago, before the kids went, through elementary school and middle school and all that. And so she had to put that older experience because she didn't have anything more relevant. So that's one of the things I would keep in mind. Tamara? All right. Heather said, earlier in the chat, somebody was asking about certifications, and I said, hey, if you're going to get a cert and it's something like Security Plus, right? It takes 1 to 2 weeks to get Security Plus. It really shouldn't take you more than that if you're doing nothing but Security Plus. And so the question was, how do you get done in 1 to 2 weeks because she says she's feel like she's been studying for it since the 301 days. The 301 is the first Security Plus I ever had, which was 2007. So that's a while ago. But yeah, so, what do you do if you're trying to get a cert? I will tell you, my preference is, basically there's 3 ways to get a certification. One is you can self-study. One is you could take an online course of some sort, or one is you can go in person and do a boot camp. There's benefits to all of those. Self-study works for some people. I will tell you, when I go to study for a cert, I literally buy a textbook, an old school paperback textbook, and I go to the back of it, and there's usually a practice exam, and I take that first. Based on how I do, I then read the sections or the chapters that I need to plug the holes in my knowledge, because I have a lot of knowledge about this stuff. And even, if I go back 15 years ago, I took my first Security Plus, I had a lot of IT knowledge, even though I wasn't necessarily in security yet. And so I was able to kind of say, okay, I know these sections, I don't know these sections, let me study that. And so you can minimize your time that way. Second, you could take an online course that takes you from A to Z and goes through every single thing. That works really good, and I sell a lot of those. As you guys know, I am the certification guy. You go to diontraining.com, and I will help you pass any cert you need to on the CompTIA food chain, and it won't take you more than 40, 50 hours. But it's going to take you 40 or 50 hours, and so you need to dedicate 40 to 50 hours to do it. If you have the ability to take off a week of work, that's what I used to do in the old days. I would take a week of vacation, I would go home, read the book, take the class, whatever it was I was doing, and go take the test on Friday, and I would pass. And that way I could get through the cert. And that's why, a lot of hiring managers in the tech world, we know that to get a cert doesn't take that much. In general, you can get pretty much any cert you want in 1 to 2 weeks of dedicated effort. The problem is when you try to do 20 minutes a day, every day for 3 months, because by the time you get to the end of the 3 months, you forgot what you learned on day 1. And so that's why that short focused effort works. And that brings up the idea of boot camps, which is the third way of doing things. I don't teach boot camps anymore, but I used to. And I will tell you, they are very effective in that you go in and you have no other job but to go to that boot camp for 8 hours a day, 5 days in a row. And on the end of the 5th day, you go take your exam. And so really it's just about how much knowledge can I push in your head so you can regurgitate it on test day. Now, if I ask you on Monday what you learned last week, you probably forgot all of it, because boot camps push it all in, but it comes out just as fast. But those are kind of the 3 ways to do certs. And so, when I look at something and people say, well, I can't get hired because I don't have a cert, I go, well, then you're not trying. Because honestly, it's not that hard to get a cert, because you can go get a cert in 1 to 2 weeks. You just have to want it. And it comes down to, my wife and I, we talk about this all the time, right? I have teenage kids now, one's 15, one's 17. And I say, if you want something bad enough, you'll make the time for it. And so, if you want to play that brand new video game and beat it, you'll make the 10 hours it takes to go through all of Call of Duty when you get the brand new game, and you'll do it in 1 or 2 days. And so, if you want to get a cert, go and dedicate yourself, 3 or 4 hours a night for the next 2 weeks, you'll get that cert. So it really is just about, what do you prioritize? And I know it's really easy for me to say that, but it is, there's probably a lot of competitions for your time. You probably, you got kids or a spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and there's all that stuff that eats at your time. And I'll tell you, if you just turn off the TV for 2 weeks, you'll be able to get it done, because most of us watch 2 to 3 hours a day of TV, or are on YouTube or on Facebook or whatever. Cut those things out for 2 weeks, get your cert, and it won't be a blocker in your path anymore. The other thing with certs, people always ask me is, what cert do I get? And the answer is, what job do you want, right? Figure out what job you want. Go look on LinkedIn, look at those position descriptions, just like we did earlier. When you look at that Costco job, if you scroll down at the bottom, it would tell you, we value these certs, or we don't, and they don't have any listed. I think in that job, they didn't ask for any certs, if I remember correctly. Some places will ask specifically, and they'll tell you what they're looking for. You don't want to go and grab every cert out there. Instead, look at the jobs in your area and in your career field that you want to be in. If you want to be a cybersecurity analyst, go look at 20 jobs and just see, what are the common things they're asking for. Are they asking for CEH? Are they asking for Pentest Plus? Are they asking for Security Plus? Are they asking for CISSP? Whatever it is, that becomes your goal. And you want to say, okay, out of these 20 jobs, 10 of them asked for CISA Plus, 2 of them asked for CEH, and 1 asked for CISP. Which one am I going to go for? CYSA Plus, because 10 of them asked for it, right? It's the biggest one, and that's what you want to grab. So I can't give you a definite answer of which one you should get, but if you do that basic research of which jobs do I want based on title, like Kip told you earlier, you'll be able to figure out what certs you need, and then you just go out to a place like Dion Training or Udemy or even YouTube or the bookstore, and you can get your cert.
Episode 55 is called Which Cybersecurity Certifications Should I Get? Check that one out. I just dropped it into the chat.
You're the man, Kip. Googling as I talk. All right. Mubin says, I have some certs, 6 of them, and I'm getting a degree in cybersecurity, but I don't work in the cybersecurity field directly yet. I currently work in the IT help desk. How can I do that smooth transition into cybersecurity? So you've gotten the education part down, right? But you don't have the experience part down. What are some things that Mubin can do, Kip?
Oh my gosh, you're working on the IT help desk. What a perfect perch for you to take advantage of. Well, first of all, you have a part-time job in cybersecurity right now, because I'll bet you a significant percentage of the tickets that you're handling have something to do with a password or with permissions that aren't quite right, or I need a new account because I have to get access to a new system, or I'm locked out of a system. Can you get me back in? That's all cybersecurity stuff. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that you're probably also passing tickets to a second level support team, maybe multiple second level support teams. One of those teams is probably network administration, server administration, possibly the IT security team itself. All right. All those people are in cybersecurity too. So make friends with them. Go talk to the network people and say, how do you do VLANs? How do you do all this security stuff that you need to do? The server admins are setting up permissions and shared folders and that sort of business. They patch their systems. That's security. Talk to them. And of course, the IT security team, shadow them, ask them, can I come to a team meeting? Can I shadow somebody, right? Talk to your boss on the help desk and say, hey, I'm really interested in graduating from my help desk role, and I want to go to the cybersecurity team eventually. Can I get more cybersecurity duties in my current job? If you have the same experience that I had when I first got into IT security, if you ask somebody, can I do more of that work? Odds are you're going to get buried in an avalanche of that work, because most people hate that work, and they'll be glad to give it to somebody who puts up their hand and says, I'll do it. So, you are in a fantastic position. All you need to do is just look around, recognize what's around you, and start making friends and volunteering for all the cybersecurity work that they'll give you.
Yeah, I had, when I was an IT director for an organization, we had about 150 people working in this organization. And one of the people on the help desk was relatively new and said, hey, I really want to be an email system administrator one day. That's my goal. I want to be an Exchange administrator. I was like, okay, sounds cool, dude. And he's like, would you mind if one day a week, instead of being on the help desk, I went and worked side by side with the email Exchange guys so I can learn and I can become an administrator? And we looked at it and we said, sure, we can do that. We can support it in your schedule. And so we gave him one day a week, every Friday, he went and worked with them. Now, the good thing for us was we got basically cheap labor, because I will tell you, an Exchange system administrator at the time was making about $100,000 a year, and a help desk person was making about $25,000 a year. So for one day a week, I was getting this $25,000 a year person doing $100,000 a year work. And he was doing a great thing for us, and it was doing great for him because he was building up his skill set. He was able to use that, and in about a year, he actually moved over to a full-time role when one opened up, because we said, we need a new person. This person left. Hey, Tom's always the guy who always helps us. Let's just bring Tom over. And so he moved from the help desk over into Exchange admin, where he wanted to work, but it took him, about a year for that position to open up. But by doing that one day a week thing, if your boss is willing to let you do that, you can really gain a lot of experience really quickly that way. And it really worked out well for him. All right, Katie Bam. Any chance you offer discounts for 2 spots in the program? That's a good question. I don't know. We've never done that before.
No.
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
I
I'm gonna pass that to Kip.
Well, okay. So Katie, I've actually already noticed that you have sent me a message in LinkedIn. So thank you for that. And I propose that we answer your question offline. So
Sounds
what do you
good.
think, Jason?
Yeah, I think that's fair, because honestly, we've never discussed it before, so I don't know the answer. But we'll get you an answer tonight after we're done with the live session. Kip and I will talk, and he's got your contact through LinkedIn, you said, so we will send it to you that way. Awesome. All right. Way to put us on the spot, Tamara. Man, I'd fire her if she wasn't my wife. All right. AJ Cooper says, if your goal is to land a security analyst job and you have A+ and your information systems bachelor's degree, should you stay for Net Plus or focus on Sec Plus? Because you have a bachelor's degree already in information systems and you have your A+ down, I would recommend, if you already know the knowledge for Network Plus, you don't necessarily need to take the test for Network Plus. Now, what I mean by that is, If you already feel comfortable with things like VPNs, you feel comfortable with subnetting. If I tell you what a 192.168.1.1/28 is, and you could tell me what the broadcast is and the host ID and the network name for that is, you're probably fine going right into Security Plus. If what I just said confused you, then I would recommend at least going through the content for Network Plus, because everything we do in cybersecurity is built on networks. And if you don't understand networks, you don't understand routing, you don't understand how the OSI model works, everything else becomes really, really difficult as you go into Security Plus and CISA Plus and things like that. I will tell you the Network Plus certification is my least favorite certification as far as going into getting somebody a job. It is probably the least, from the CompTIA pipeline, it is probably the one that is asked for the least by employers. Lots of people ask for A+, especially for entry-level help desk and system administration, first-level support. Lots of people ask for Security Plus. In fact, those are number 1 and number 2, or number 1 and number 2, depending on which way you look at it in the pipeline. Network Plus is definitely further down the list as far as what employers are asking for. But that doesn't mean the knowledge isn't important. The knowledge is critically important. But you could save yourself $350 and not take the exam, and I'm okay with that, as long as you get your Security Plus later on, and you already have the degree as well that can show, hey, I've got this education. So that's my perspective on Network Plus. Honestly, for me, I got my A+ in 2000. I got my Security Plus in 2007, and I went back and got my Network Plus in like 2012, only because I was going to teach it for colleges, and when I started teaching at college, I had to be certified and current in the things I teach. So I do have my A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, CISA Plus, Pentest Plus, Linux Plus, Cloud Plus, Cloud Essentials Plus. I have all of them, but that's only because I teach them and I have to be certified to be teaching them. If I was a job applicant, A+ is good to get you started. Security Plus is great in the cybersecurity world. You definitely want that. And then the one after that I would go for is CYSA Plus, which is how to do the analyst work that a SOC analyst would do. Having those 3 certifications are kind of the 3 key ones to really get your foot in the door and get started. The other one that I often tell people to look at is ITIL 4 Foundation. And I know this is going to sound really weird. And when I told Kip this the first time, he started looking at me like I was crazy. And I thought I was crazy at first too. The only reason I started telling people about this is because I kept getting reports back from my students that said, I got my ITIL 4 Foundation, and now all of a sudden, nobody was looking at me, and now all of a sudden I've gotten 3 interviews this week. And the reason is big companies, all their service management is built on ITIL. ITIL, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, ITIL. ITIL, like COBIT that he was mentioning earlier, is a way that people build their organizations. And if you're going to work as a cybersecurity analyst in a big organization that has thousands and thousands of employees, they're living on ITIL. And so what was happening was hiring managers in the resume stack, they saw 100 candidates had Security Plus, but 5 candidates had Security Plus and ITIL. And so those were the 5 they were interviewing. And that was what was happening. It became this differentiator and this filter that was pulling people out. And that course and exam is about $500 or so. And it's a 2-day course. Like if you do it in person, it's 2 days. If you do it online, it's at your own pace, but it's literally about 8 hours of video and a couple of 6 hours of video and a couple of practice exams. You could do it in a weekend. And if you add that to your resume, all of a sudden, employers start asking you and recruiters start contacting you because they think you understand how big IT works in big organizations, because that's what ITIL is all about. So a little off tangent and kind of went off your question, AJ, but if you don't have ITIL, I'd get ITIL. Like I said, it's $500 and a 2-day course. You can knock it out this weekend if you wanted to, and it will really make a difference for you because especially here in the US and in Europe, those 2 areas love ITIL. It is the #1 IT service management certification in the world for good reason. Tamara. All right, I think we got 2 more, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, you just kept clicking and clicking, so I know we've been going for a while, and I promised Kip we weren't going to do that, and so I'm eating his time.
Fun at least.
All right, Tori, you've been slacking, and I called you out, playing too many video games. Yes, yeah, I mean, it is one of those things that, video games are fun, right? I mean, I love video games too. I'm a Call of Duty fan, so that's my game. Whenever there's a new Call of Duty, I buy it. I usually play it for 2 or 3 days straight, kill the game, and then I don't play again for like a month because that's kind of the deal I have with my wife, so I don't completely ignore her. I get a game, I get to play it for 2 or 3 days, then I take off a couple of weeks. But it's one of those things that can just suck up all your time, and you just got to figure out if you want it bad enough, make the time, right? And take a week or 2 off of video games, a week or 2 off. I had a buddy who he loved sports. He was a baseball fan, and I never realized that there's like 170 games in a season of baseball. And he would watch every single one of them. And they're like 3-4 hour games. And I'm like, dude, what do you do with your life? All you do is watch baseball. And he would take off days of work because his team was playing game that night. And I was like, that's just, to me, was crazy. But yeah, it's just priorities. I couldn't care less about baseball, but he loved it. So yeah, just, got to figure out what you love. And if you want it, take the time, make the time, get it done. Last one, Tamara. Make it a good one. Does the quiz link work for other IT jobs not related to cyber? Yes. So the quiz is not specific to cyber. It is specific to our hiring process as we think about resumes, interviews, and negotiations, and then degrees and certifications and negotiations and things like that. So yeah, again, it's a free quiz. It's about 15 questions, if I remember correctly. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes, and it will give you, it will help you figure out what is blocking you and to identify, and it really is common sense. You'll be able to figure this out as you go through, but it'll really help you identify where you're getting blocked and then some suggestions on what you can do about it. In our hired program, we do focus on the cybersecurity industry. That isn't to say that we can't help you get a IT regular job either. The only lesson that is really specific to cyber is day 4 or 5, when Kip spends about 30 minutes going through every job in a large cybersecurity organization. And so we talk about, if you like these type of things, this is a job for you. If you like these kind of things, this is for you. A lot of that will still apply to IT jobs, but the names of the jobs we're pulling out are actual cybersecurity jobs like penetration tester, vulnerability analyst, IT director, SOC director, and things like that. So that's my thought on it. Kip, anything to add on that?
Nope, I think you covered it great.
All right. Kip's like, Jason, just shut up.
I'm throwing this up here just because I can.
The pop-up screen made me laugh out loud. Oh, the fact you put the comment up there.
Oh no, it really got called out.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be careful what you post in chat. Tamara will throw it up there. I saw somebody else. I saw, I think it was Debbie, that said, she has CAS Plus but no experience, right? I've seen a lot of people do that where they'll get a bunch of certifications, but they haven't gotten that first job yet to gain the experience. And so the other thing I would mention on that is you got to be careful when you're applying for jobs not to scare off employers because you have too much knowledge and not enough experience. You need the right certifications for the level you're at. If I have somebody who just came out of school and they have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, 12 certifications, and they've never worked a day in their life, they're useless to me as a hiring manager, right? If I have somebody who has 2 or 3 key certifications and maybe a bachelor's degree and no experience, that's somebody who's more at my level that I can afford for that level of experience. Because if I see somebody with a master's degree, I'm thinking that person's got $40,000 to $50,000 in student loans, and they're going to need, $80,000, $100,000 a year salary, and yet they have no experience. So they're not that valuable to me to be able to pay them that much. So these are all things we talk about as we go through the course, and we talk about where you should expect, what certifications to get, what certifications to list, what level of college you want. All that stuff is definitely important to know. Yeah, and then I think that was everything, right, Tam?
Well, Abdul did say he would like this.
All right, I'll take one last one. Abdul N, right?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, you found it. Okay. Has a computer science degree and taking Security Plus. Awesome. Will Security Plus help you get your foot in the door? Yes. So Security Plus is the world's certification for foundational level cybersecurity. That is the one that is kind of the starting point. Anybody who wants to get in cybersecurity needs to have, especially here in the United States. If it's a government job or a DoD military job or a contractor job in the military sector, that is required for about 75% of their jobs must have at least a Security Plus. The other 25% need things like CISA, pen test, or CISSP. But 75% of the jobs, Security Plus is the minimum level requirement. So I would definitely get that to pair with your cybersecurity, your computer science degree. And then because you have a computer science degree, what I would recommend is you should try to get a job as a programmer doing DevSecOps, development, security, operations. And that would be the natural progression for you into the cybersecurity world, because there's such a need for programmers right now that if you have that skill set from being a computer science student, you could get a job as a programmer in a cybersecurity organization. And then if you don't want to be a programmer long-term and you want to be something else on the tech side, you can do that as well. Again, if you want to take the quiz, yourcyberpath.com. She just doubled up. Yourcyberpath.com/hiring quiz. If you want to join the cohort and work with me and Kip for the next 21 days, plus the following year after that, the program is 21 days, 30 minutes a day for 21 days. You're going to get all the information, hiring, with the hiring process, with resumes, interviews, and negotiations. It's an awesome program. You're going to love it. I promise you. And as I said, 7-day money back guarantee. If by day 7 you're not happy, let us know. But no risk for you. That's my final words, Kip.
Listen, we're really glad that you chose to spend 90 minutes with us. We know it's getting late for a lot of people, and so we're grateful for you, and we want you guys to crush it. We want you to get your dream cybersecurity job. If there's somehow we can help you, let us know. Check out the free podcasts. Ideally, opt in and be part of the next cohort.
Yep. Look forward to seeing you all there. And until next time, have a great week.